Hmm. Hmm. Is it? Whoa. That was shocking. Alrighty guys, hopefully you enjoyed my alternate personality. That's so dumb. Anyways, by the way, welcome back to the channel. Today we have my Honda again, and we're going to be doing an alternator install video. It just quit the other day while I was driving down the road, and so I did a few testings. I'll explain in a minute what I went through, and I found out it was my alternator, so I went ahead and picked one up. And that's why we are doing an install today. Let's jump in. So let me show you guys what I did to diagnose the bad alternator. The other day I was driving and the battery light came on. And I just quick popped open the owner's manual just because I was curious to see if there was anything specific for that or if it was just a general. And of course it was general. Basically all that says is that there's something not working in my battery system. So alternator, battery, starter, something to do with that. Correctly, something's not working correctly. So I began testing. I went to the parts store. I had them test my battery. The guy said it was fine, but then shortly after that, it stopped starting at all. And so I was like, oh man, what is this? So through some research, I found out that the alternator was not charging my battery, and I wanted to make sure of that. So one of the ways to test is put a multimeter on the positive and negative and turn it to a DC power, 20 or above. And then you can test it by when the car is off. You should get about just over 12 volts on that. But when you start the car up and it's running, it should go between 14 and 16. If it does not, that means the alternator is not charging your battery correctly. Now, don't just automatically assume that your alternator is bad, because there could be other problems. Like there is 2 connectors in my case on my alternator. So I wanted to go ahead and check those and make sure they were good. The wiring harness that connects in with a plug, and then there's a little terminal that connects on there. I went ahead and looked at those, and there was nothing physically wrong with them. And I looked at also the pulley. I started the car up and got it running and watched the pulley and made sure the pulley was actually spinning. Either the belt didn't break or the pulley was stuck and it was just spinning over it and it wasn't charging at all because there was no movement. Like I said, I started it up. There's no signs of anything being disconnected or any pulleys or belts being broken. So that was the biggest indicator for me that the alternator was bad. I tried charging the battery up. It ran for maybe 20, 30 miles, and then it did the whole where it shuts down on me. All the lights came on. It was pretty scary, actually. My lights went dim, it was dark. My dash lights started flashing, check engine light, all that, knock sensor and everything. And so I just drove home as quickly as I could and parked it and tried recharging it again, and that's how I got it here to the shop so I can go ahead and replace that alternator. So without further ado, we're going to jump right in and show you what we're going to do to take it out. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and start removing the stuff in our way to access the alternator. One of the things is the tensioner. I went ahead and loosened it. This little wing nut on the top here. This will loosen the power steering pump here, and that'll drop it down and make this all loose up here so I can remove this belt when I get to it. Also, I need to remove the little container here, and then this line right here. I went ahead and loosened some of the bolts for that. So I'll take that and I'll just sort of like split everything here and try to push it off the side so I can remove the power steering pump and then access the alternator. Alright, so I got this aside here, and then I pulled this out of the system that's in here. Pull it and push it off the side as much as I can. There is the wing nut here. I loosened that out all of the way, and I can just pull that off now. Put that aside. And then on the side here, it's like a tighten. So when you tighten that wing nut down, it pulls the power steering pump up. And then there's a 12mm nut, or I'm sorry, bolt here, and that holds the power steering pump in place, so that way it doesn't slide back down and loosen this belt here. So there is a 12 millimeter here, and then there also is another 12 meter down the side that holds the bottom part of the power steering pump. So I just loosen that and push this thing down as much as I can. And now my belt is loose, so I can pull that belt right off, just like that. I'm gonna try and not disconnect it down there, because that way I don't lose it. Just like twist it and push it off the side there. So that means that is loose. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this in. Oh, it is a nut. I thought that was a bolt, which means I have to pull this one out first, which should be easier now that I got that belt removed. I couldn't get the wrench down in there very easy. Actually, I had to use a little hand wrench. Oh, still not gonna let me get to it. It still will be easier than earlier though, because I'll have better access to it. Okay, so I went and just cheated and got a ratcheting one here, because it only turns like a quarter of a turn. So if I can get that on there. Yeah, you can see. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. I have to go fish that out. After a forever amount of trying, I just left that wrench in there. I have another one that's not ratcheting. Ow. So I'm gonna have to try and get this off and then access that wrench, because I can't get my hands down in there, and I can't get any sort of magnet down in there, and it's like stuck. So this might take a long time. So, one eternity later, this is the bolt that was on the bottom. They're both actually sliding bolts, so they have like a long groove, and when you tighten it, it pulls both of those up and you tighten them both down. I actually didn't realize that at first. This one has like a hex pattern, as you can see right there. That goes into a thing, and then there's this nut that goes on this side for over here. And then for the other side, this bolt goes through here, and then this is where that wing nut screws into to pull the power steering pump up. And then once you get it up, you tighten it down with this nut on the top. So that's how that all works for there. It's 12 millimeters for both of those. Let me see, is this a 12 millimeter? No. All right, we'll try and work around it. So we'll pull this up. This is all connected right here, so if I can get this past here. Boom. I'm gonna set this here, and let me see here. Put this over here. There we go. And now that is my alternator. So if I can adjust the camera here really quick. I was using the new alternator here as a reference. So as you can see, there's a bolt point here and a bolt point here, and it sits like this. And same with this one, there is a tensioner at the bottom, because this is a separate belt that this runs off of. So there's going to be another belt with another tensioner down there. It's like right here in the bottom of the pulley. So I have to go ahead and try and loosen that tensioner and then pull these two bolts. And then there is a wire that connects here, and then a plug that plugs in here. And I'll show you guys those once I get it out. All right. So to say that that was hard is an understatement. It was really hard. I actually could not get this wing nut loose, so I just took the entire bracket off the side of the engine. I'm going to obviously break that loose because I have to put it on the other alternator, and then obviously I'll use that to tighten it up again. But I mean, man, was that sucker tight, and it's just so tight. Let me show you what I did here. I literally ripped the entire side of the car apart here, because it's up in here. That it is. It's located up above the AC unit there. So it was really hard to get to. So I went ahead and ripped that out. I'm gonna go ahead and take the nut off here, disconnect that, and then the harness underneath here, and then remove that bracket off of there and put it on the other alternator, and then start putting it back together. Alright, so I went ahead and took the bracket off of the old one, put it on the new one. I'm just going to leave it on there and drop it in. That way it's much easier, because that way I don't have to finagle with the body panel there. Put all my bolts back in and tighten everything up with the belt on. So let me show you. So just a quick update here. I went ahead and put the alternator back in, and that was quite the pain in the butt, but I went ahead and put the belt on as well with that bracket, and then this is the wing nut on the bottom. I have to screw that all the way in one little bit at a time. So I will be here for a long while. All right, so I'll be back once I get that in.
2,000 years later.
All right, so I spent an eternity tightening that wing nut down there. Got that all in. Like I said, got the belt, got it tightened down to the correct spot. I went ahead and put this bracket back in, and then I have to put the little container bracket back in here. Just get that started. And then I'm gonna put my power steering pump back in. Get that belt back on, and then we should be ready and run to go. Obviously have to put everything else together because I ripped it all apart, but we'll get to that when we get to that. So alrighty guys, I have everything installed. I'll show you here really quick. We have everything put back in the correct order. I didn't come up with any extra bolts, washers, parts, which is good because that means you put it together wrong. So you gotta take it all back apart. I went ahead and hooked the battery back up, and I'm gonna go in and see if it starts. Let's go see. It should. I don't really doubt it. The light's up and everything. Big question is if that battery light goes out. I'm not sure if it will. We'll see here. So clutch in. Everything lights up. Ooh, it's a little rough on there. But our battery light is out, which is good. That's good. That airbag sensor should go out shortly. One of the reasons why that should be on would be no battery power to it. So if the battery ran dead, the battery might even be dead right now. Like I said, it was a rough start, so it'll probably take a little bit. I'll probably let it run for a while, let it charge it up, and then we'll be all set to hit the road, and I don't have to worry about being left stranded. Alrighty guys, it has been roughly 1 week since I installed the alternator on my car. The reason why I waited so long is I wanted to make sure that that was the problem. Like I said, it was the battery light, so it could have been a battery, the starter, the alternator, and in my case it was the alternator. So that fixed my problem. Everything has been running correctly since then. And so yeah, if you guys like this video, please consider hitting the like button. Also consider subscribing down below. And for more content in the future, hit that notification bell. Remember, it's not the car you choose to build, it's what you choose to build the car. See you guys in a future video.